All right, let's take a look at texture painting. Vertex painting, which we did in the last Blunder through Blender, does take a lot of memory if the number of vertices is huge, whereas texture painting can have a really detailed texture on a very simple object. Let's use the more complex UV sphere, which has more vertices in it than the icosphere that we used before. And let's subdivide it, just as we did the icosphere, by going to add modifier. So let's go to add modifier and add a subdivision surface, and then let's make it like that, maybe one more even. So it's very detailed, and add that modifier by applying it. Now you can see when we look at the mesh is much finer. Okay, having that, we can now go to texture paint, and you'll see that it already has a UV map. It's unwrapped the whole sphere there because it does. But when you go to pick a color to make your ocean, for example, once again, you're not going to get anything. So when we want to make something paintable, we need to go to texture slots here, and it says no textures, and hit the little plus sign and give it a base color. And 1024 is fine for me, don't need the alpha, and I'm going to make the base color. I'm going to actually make it a dark ocean blue, and there it is. All right, so we've got the dark ocean blue covering up the UV map. Now when we go here and pick a place to create our landscape, we can come in and change our radius a bit. You can also change it from here. You have a color picker that's down there, and you can change the radius over here. So either way. But then if we go and we make our sort of South American thing, and then our California, Central America thing, and then make our North America, you can see on the left side here how it's actually mapping onto that. So yeah, really make a messy kind of thing like that, and then you can change the radius and fill in stuff like that. So we're making the planet Earth, and I'm not going to make too much of this because it's just for show. And then of course our polar ice caps, we would take this white color and make the polar ice cap up there, and another ice cap down here, and we've sort of got some kind of planet there. Now that's really all there is to it, except that, as you can see here, image has a star on it, which means it hasn't been saved, and if you don't save the image, then it's not going to show up the next time you open up the file. So you've got to come here and you've got to say save as, and it says sphere base color, which is fine. Use a PNG, find a place to save it that will be associated with your file, and now we have that Earth right there. If we now go and export GLB and then call it Earth texture, and then make sure that's in our 3D objects filer, and export that. Now when we go to that folder, so when we click on that to open it up in the 3D viewer, there it is. All right, so there's our little planet, but done with texture paint instead. But let's take a look at texture paint for something that's more complicated. So let's say we're taking a different model than a sphere. So I'm going to open a model of a hammer that I have. Here's a model of a hammer, and try to do the same thing. So when I go to texture paint, you will note not only does it say that there is no material, but down here it says missing UVs, materials, textures. So it's missing the UV as well. So we're going to have to do UV unwrapping on it. The way to do UV unwrapping is to go to edit mode and select everything with A, and then hit U for unwrap, and then go Smart UV Project. Make an island margin of 0.05. That's going to separate things in the UV map so they don't overlap. And go ahead like that, and you say, wait, nothing's happening. Well, we'd have to look at it in UV editing to see that. And there it is, all unwrapped. Right? That's what I mean by island margin, these spaces in between the different parts of the hammer map as it got stretched out and unwrapped. So now when I go to texture paint, you can see them showing up over here. The problem is that there is no material, because if I try to paint on it, pick some color, nothing happens, and down here it says missing materials, textures. So here you can go up to texture slots and go plus for no textures and make a base color, and decide what color you want to have, maybe a dark gray to paint on, and we don't need the alpha. And now the dark gray is there with the textures. So now when you paint, you get the paint, which is great. And it shows up over here what elements of the unwrap you're painting. So this gives you the ability to get in here and do some interesting painting work. So this would be the hammer, maybe the base is gold. And by the way, when you get a problem like this bleed over, if you mess up and get underneath there with a color that you don't like, then you're supposed to be able to pick the color that you want using the color picker. There's that gray, and then just paint that up there. Sometimes seeing a mistake helps you to learn new things. So it didn't pick the exact same color. But yeah, you go in there and you can start to get different colors for your hammer. And see how it's laying in over there. And you can do mix, or you can do color dodge, or you can do add, or you can do difference or light. You can do overlay. And just have a grand old time painting stuff. Darken. You have multiply, we saw. You have color burn. But the mix is the one that covers things up. And you get your hammer there. So that's how the object can be painted. And any object can be painted that way. And you can add all sorts of whatever details you want to add later on, and just by changing the relative size of the brush, the strength. Of course, the strength means that the other underlying color is going to show up, which is fine and good. So you have these abilities here. And when you then go and remember that you've got to save the image to it. Save as, that's what that little star means. And it's already got the name hammer base color. Save it as an image. And then again, if you want to export your object to use in a 3D printer or in another game, export as the appropriate. Here's the actual 3D object. There, okay. So spend more time making your detailed object, but that is how you create a texture paint object. And just one last thing, I suppose, if you wanted to put something else on here, you could open up a picture like, let's see if we take a screenshot like, let's see, this thing about Medellin. There we go. But that doesn't help us to paint, because paint is about the color that you have. What you'd have to do there is you would have to, in UV editing, you would have to take this, going into the material, getting rid of this material. Oh, can't do it in the edit mode. Let me get rid of that material, create a new material, and then go to image texture and open that image up. Or just select it. Yeah, okay. Select that image. There, and it's wrapped around it there. So you can use images to wrap your objects, and when you're looking at it in edit mode, you can see that if you wanted to get certain things on certain parts of this, for example, this part here, if you move it, you can see it covers that part there. So you could move and rearrange pieces. So you can go and take stuff off of here and move and say, well, I want this part of the hammer to be the face of the girl, and I want this part of that, maybe move that off. Oops. Let's move this somewhere and see what's on the other side. Yeah, so if we want to put her face on both sides, then we can manipulate it like that. And then we have her face on both sides. And then on this part here, maybe we'll put the top part also. Maybe we can put her face on all of them. Yeah, so we can sort of move these around and put the face of the character wherever we want. So let's see, there's that side. And here we've got the face, but if we want to rotate it, we'd hit R and rotate the face around that way. And then the same thing over here. You can see there's the M for Medellin. That's this part here, it looks like. And we can bring that over to the face and rotate it. So you can certainly play with images. That's another technique you can do. And then when you're in object mode, there that is. And in this case, it's not asking us to save the image because the image already exists as a saved file that it references. So if you were to export this one and make a GLTF about it, maybe because OBS Studio is open. All right, so then we have a hammer that has some of the picture wrapped on it. Coolest thing is that when you're back in Blender in Texture Paint, you can come in and change or paint over that underlying image. So if you want to make blue eyes here, for example, you can paint those. If you want to put a red Hindu dot in the middle of the forehead or third eye, then you can do that. And you can see that it appears on the actual image. So you're painting, doing graffiti on graffiti, kind of. But you're not painting over here, you're painting here. So if you wanted to sample this color and then paint over these, that is because it is in mix. If you want to do darken or multiply, you can do that. So you have control over images that you can blend with the with the texture paint. You can pick those colors and do whatever you like to make your image sing. And that's just issue of strength over here. If the strength is 100%, then you completely cover up what's in the background. If you don't want to completely cover up what's in the background, so for example, if you want to come in here and you just want to make her lips maybe a little more orange or red, then you use a different strength. Note, of course, this is going to affect the image on all sides because you're changing the image. But yeah, you have that control, and it's really rather nice that you have that control. If you go to edit mode and you want to just grab a certain surface, like this surface, so you'd have to come in here in UV editing, and then you might be able to grab, yeah, those parts there. Then in UV editing, if you grab those and you do your rotations, or you want to do a scaling, for example, and then move things up, you can get more precise. You do have a lot of control over this. I note that over here, I wouldn't want to have that yellow lettering there, so I would go into texture paint and I might pick a color from here, like the flesh color, and then make the strength all the way up, and I can paint over that, and you see what it does down here. So it gives you, as I said, a lot of flexibility to play with images and paint them. Once again, you're going to see the image has a little star, which means it needs to be saved. And you can just save right over the other image, then that goes away. And then, of course, it'll export out as we like. But that's showing how you can use texture paint with images that you bring in and enhance them.